Mom!
Startled by the voice, I turned around to find a homeless person standing there in tattered clothes. Unbelievably, it was my daughter who was supposed to be dead. Half a year ago, my 16-year-old daughter left for an overseas study program. But just 2 weeks later, she tragically passed away in an accident. I spent my days in a daze, overwhelmed by shock. But finally, I was able to pull myself together and visit the place where she was studying. And there, I encountered the most unexpected reunion. Overcome with surprise and joy, I burst into tears as I embraced my daughter. However, what she told me was an unbelievable and shocking truth. My name is Nancy, 42 years old. I lived with my husband, Jason, and our daughter, Emma. I was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the house, while Jason was a salesman for a major trading company, constantly traveling around the world. Emma was a second-year high school student, studying hard to be recommended for a short-term study abroad program, which only one student from her grade could attend.
Emma wants to go studying abroad? Isn't it enough to stay in the country? Look at me. I've succeeded without doing that.
But don't you think it would be a good experience for her to see the wider world? Jason was against our daughter's plan, and as soon as I brought it up, he frowned. Jason, with his old-fashioned views, disliked the idea of women succeeding in society. He had strongly encouraged me to quit my job and stay home when we got married.
Do you have any idea how much it will cost? The plane ticket, tuition, living expenses. You plan on paying for all of that with the money I've earned, right? I'm not going to waste money on something like that.
With the family's main provider saying this, I had no words to respond. Even so, I was determined to help Emma achieve her dream, so I continued to persuade him. Then I'll earn the money for the study abroad. I'll get a part-time job and still take care of the house. I won't rely on your income. Would that be okay? Please.
What? A woman like you working here and there isn't going to make much money. Fine, but if you slack off on any household chores, I'll make you quit the part-time job right away.
Jason scoffed at me dismissively, but finally, I got his approval. From that day on, I worked part-time every day, handling all the housework perfectly, cutting back on my own food expenses, and somehow managed to save enough money for Emma's study abroad. Thanks to her efforts, Emma was finally selected as a member of the short-term study abroad program. Though reluctant, my husband eventually agreed to send her off.
Mom, Dad, I'm off!
And so, with a radiant smile, my daughter eagerly embarked on her journey. However, tragedy struck suddenly. It was 2 weeks after my daughter had arrived in Australia for her study abroad. One day, my husband came home from work, rushing toward me with a pale face.
Nancy, please stay calm and listen. I just received a call from Emma's school. It seems she died in an accident.
The moment I heard those words, all the strength left my body, and my mind went blank. This can't be. It must be a lie. Unable to accept reality, I was so shocked that I fainted and fell ill, bedridden for several days. I couldn't think about anything and felt as if I were living in a dream. During that time, my husband went to her study abroad destination, leaving me behind as I was too weak to move. What about Emma? What happened to Emma? When my husband finally returned, I asked him about our daughter's situation. But his response was cold.
I took care of everything. The funeral was also handled over there.
What? You mean it's all over already?
What choice did I have? You weren't in any condition to deal with it.
At that moment, hearing Jason's words, a hole opened in my heart, and at the same time, a deep anger began to well up inside me. I couldn't be there for my daughter at the end, nor could I say a final goodbye. Despite this, my husband showed no understanding or sympathy for my feelings, nor did he even seem to be grieving. You could have at least called me before the funeral.
Stop nagging! Get out of bed and do your chores.
How can you say that?
Emma's gone now. Get rid of all her things.
After that, we never spoke of our daughter again. I couldn't understand how he could remain so calm. 6 months later, after slowly beginning to come to terms with my feelings, I told my husband, I'm going on a domestic trip with some friends to refresh myself. But secretly, I headed to Australia, to the place where my daughter had been studying, to lay flowers for her. So, this is the town where she spent her days. As I arrived and walked through the streets, lost in my emotions, it happened.
Mom!
Startled by the voice calling me, I turned around. There stood a homeless person in tattered clothes. I tilted my head in confusion for a moment, but then, as I looked closely at the dirted face, it hit me. Emma? The girl standing before me, gaunt and with hair matted like a bird's nest, was undoubtedly my daughter. Tears and shock overwhelmed me, and my heart began to pound furiously. You're alive? How did you end up like this? What happened?
Mom, please help me.
Hearing her strained voice, I tightly embraced her.
It was all him. Everything. It was his doing.
As she lay weak in my arms, Emma began to tell me the unthinkable, struggling to muster any strength. I could see deep hatred and despair in her eyes as she looked up at me. It's okay now. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. I will protect you from here on out. I felt a fierce, burning anger ignite within me, something I had never experienced before. The next day, I returned to the US and began preparing to exact revenge on the person who had tormented Emma. I knew that unless they paid for their sins, my daughter would never find peace. 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting across from my husband at a restaurant. It was his birthday. The soft candlelight on the table flickered gently, creating a special atmosphere.
It's been a while since we've gone out to eat. Just the two of us.
He was in high spirits throughout the meal, and after finishing his dessert, he let out a satisfied sigh. This is your birthday present. Go ahead, open it. I handed him a large book.
Oh, is this an album?
Yes, I've compiled all our memories together into one book. I smiled sweetly as Jason, clearly intrigued, opened the album.
Did you make this? Impressive. Let's see. Oh! You even included photos from before we got married.
For once, his voice was lively as he eagerly flipped through the pages.
This is from our wedding. And this one is our honeymoon.
As he continued to turn the pages, memories seemed to flood back, and his expression grew more sentimental.
This must be when Emma was born. Huh?
But as soon as he turned to the next page, his expression darkened. I didn't miss that change and smiled to myself inwardly. Oh. Jason? What's wrong? He had turned pale, and a faint sweat appeared on his forehead. No wonder. Page after page, intimate photos of him with another woman began to appear. There were photos of him dining happily with her and walking hand in hand. These were pictures I had painstakingly collected after returning from Australia up until this day, documenting his affair. Clearly flustered, Jason's eyes darted around as he tried to come up with an excuse.
Why are these in here?
By the way, who is this woman?
Nancy, she's just a colleague. You're misunderstanding something.
Really? You two seem awfully close for just colleagues. I responded calmly to his words.
We were working on the same project, so we ended up spending a lot of time together. I was just listening to her talk about some work issues, that's all.
He continued to make excuses, perhaps thinking he could still talk his way out of this. Sure, I guess you need a private room for really serious conversations.
What?
As I calmly turned the next page, there was a large photo of my husband and his mistress entering a hotel together. Jason's face drained of even more color, and his mouth started to tremble. You're still wearing your wedding ring in the photo, aren't you? And she must know you're married, too, right? I looked him straight in the eye and pressed him with a voice as cold as ice. Finally, as if he had given up, he teared up and tightly gripped my hand.
I'll confess. After Emma died, I lost it and had an affair. It was just a moment of weakness. Please believe me.
Indeed, the photos in the album were all taken after our daughter was gone. You must have been hurting, too, after losing her.
Yes, it was like losing an arm. I just wanted to escape from reality.
Misunderstanding my words as a sign of sympathy, he quickly tried to adjust his tone. But to Jason, I muttered, lies, all of it. I quietly pulled out my smartphone. Then who do you think took this video? He stared at the screen in disbelief for a while, as if he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. This is a video of you with her in Australia, isn't it? Were you on a business trip together? You must have been really busy fitting in dates between meetings. Jason remained in shock for a moment, but suddenly, as if something had clicked, he grabbed me with incredible force.
When did you start spying on me? You hired a detective? I can't believe this!
Jason, taking advantage of the privacy of the room, started shouting angrily. He then slammed the album onto the table with a loud bang. But I wasn't intimidated. I'm going to call the person who took this video, and the three of us can have a little chat. With that, I dialed a certain number.
Don't you dare! What are you trying to do by calling them? Do you enjoy cornering me like this?
As his frustration grew, I calmly ended the call and waited for the moment to arrive. This will reveal everything. A few seconds later, the door to the private room opened, and a woman stepped inside.
Dad, it's been a while.
It was my daughter, Emma.
Why are you here? I left you in Australia.
In his shock, Jason nearly blurted out the biggest secret he'd been hiding for the past 6 months. He quickly caught himself, realizing his slip-up, but I didn't miss a word of it. That's right. Emma was supposed to have died in Australia. Because of you.
That's not true.
Jason, trembling and holding his head in his hands, was clearly panicked. Emma, facing him, began to speak calmly.
I was really surprised back then. I never expected to catch you cheating during my study abroad.
Shut up! Be quiet!
But when you saw that I recorded the video, you were so scared that your affair would be exposed. And that's why you...
Enough! Stop it!
He tried to silence her repeatedly, but Emma didn't stop.
You took away my phone and wallet, drove me far away, and left me stranded.
That's right. I had heard this shocking truth from Emma that day in Australia. The story about her death had been a lie Jason made up to cover his tracks. I couldn't believe he'd go to such lengths to hide his infidelity. She had set up her phone to automatically back up data to the internet in case it was stolen abroad. Jason had assumed taking her phone would be enough, but I managed to retrieve all the evidence. Emma didn't die in an accident. You're the one who put her through hell.
That's a misunderstanding, right? Emma, please, help your dad!
He stretched out his arms in a fatherly gesture, trying to embrace her, but Emma forcefully slapped his hands away.
I begged you to help me so many times back then, didn't I? And you ignored me.
After walking for days, Emma finally made it back to her school, only to find that Jason had already completed her withdrawal and had cleared out her dorm. With her English skills still developing and without any close friends or anyone to turn to, she was left completely alone. Not knowing what to do, Emma sat dazed in a park until a kind homeless woman helped her. Thanks to that woman's assistance, she managed to survive until she found me.
I can't see you as my father anymore. I'll never forgive you.
For the past 6 months, Emma had clung to the strong belief that she had to return to America, and now she was glaring sharply at Jason.
It's all a misunderstanding. If we talk it out, you'll understand.
Are you still going to play dumb? Let the police decide whether it's a misunderstanding.
I'm smarter than both of you. I'll find a way to get away with this, no matter what.
In his heightened emotional state, Jason seemed to forget he was in a restaurant and started yelling, throwing spoons and forks at me. I'm not worried. With evidence this clear, we'll be fine.
What could someone like you, who's only ever worked part-time, possibly do?
Hearing those words, I suddenly remembered why I really wanted to support Emma's study abroad. Every day, Jason had belittled me, saying, "What could a housewife like you possibly know?" I wanted her to see a bigger world, to fulfill the dreams I had once held for myself. Don't underestimate me. I clenched my fists and glared sharply at Jason. Just then, as if cowed by the intensity of my gaze, he froze, and we heard the distant sound of police sirens. You see, before I let Emma into the room, I'd already called the police and asked them to come. Looks like they're here to pick you up. You can finish this conversation at the police station.
What? Wait, are you serious? You really called the police? Are you trying to make your own husband a criminal?
We're getting a divorce, so whatever happens to you doesn't concern me anymore.
Wait! Hold on! I was wrong! I'll change! I swear! So please, don't leave me! Don't call the police!
Crying, Jason clung to me, but I brushed him off without a word. When he tried to cling to Emma next, she, of course, rejected him as well. Finally realizing it was over, he collapsed to his knees. Later, Jason was sentenced to prison for endangering our underage daughter, and he was also fired from his job. I divorced him and demanded $20,000 in alimony. I also sought $15,000 from his affair partner. Word of their relationship quickly spread through the company, and after paying me off, the woman left the company and dumped Jason. Jason's parents disowned him, leaving him with nowhere to go, and he ended up homeless. Emma was able to return to her studies in Australia and resumed her journey toward achieving her dreams. I found a new full-time job. Seeing Emma's determination to view the world with wide eyes gave me the courage I needed. Now, I'm living busy yet fulfilling days for myself. How was today's story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next video.